terms of With a Brush of Love, you know, it was something that took a turn in my life unexpectedly. As I said, I don't have children with autism, so people say, where did this come from?
Yeah, what were you doing at the time?
Well, my background is I'm a singer, actress, and I was performing out of the country, and I would come home, and I love kids, and I would get really bored on vacation. I would teach.
Okay.
So I was teaching K through 6, and then a lot of kids were being mainstreamed into my class with autism on the spectrum with special needs, and they would have assistance. And I was noticing that they weren't really set up for success. And these children were being thrown into classrooms, and as many parents know, and as you know, the rooms are so chaotic, overly stimulating, just too much for me. For the neurotypical child, let alone a kid with autism. And so what was happening is they were having a lot of trouble dealing with the change in routine, as one would know, but the extra stimulation, and the neurotypical kids were having trouble with it.
I mean,
the
when
fluorescent lighting.
Yeah, when you look at the lighting, the sounds, the sensations, and then the noise, you know, and one of the things that we've learned, that one of the experts, and of course, one of our idols, and I will say she's an idol to both of us, Temple Grandin. Of course, Shannon has had the great pleasure of interviewing several times. She talks so much about the lack of research on the sensory and how so much sensory can cause these behaviors. So that's really interesting that you picked up on that.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And you know, we're all of us on the planet are affected by our sensory, but for many of us it's subconscious, and for some of us we're more sensitive, whether it's I don't like foods that are crunchy, or I don't, you know, we are sensitive, but it's so subliminal that we blame everything on the outside, you know, of our stress, of what's going on, but we would never consider that a space, color, lighting, sound, scent, all of these things are partially exacerbating and causing the very issue that we're dealing with. And so in noticing that and having the kids then sometimes removed from the stimulating place to a space that was cold and austere with one chair, and that created more drama, even again for me. And I was getting really shocked and annoyed, frankly, by it, because it was almost like they were being punished, and they're not doing anything wrong, but they're being placed in a scenario that is supposedly for their support and education with no support or proper education. And I don't think it was for a lack of positive intention as much as it was for ignorance across the board. How are we supposed to address this? And so this was back in 2000 and 2001. And so long story short, having done a little research and finding that nothing, to my shock, existed like this, I did some focus groups and some business expos, and the response I got was really positively, you know, positive and overwhelming. And so and then the name came to me literally in the shower. A million things happen in the shower. Thank you.
Brush of Love. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so I started this in 2002, and 11 years later, you know, it's been quite the roller coaster, and I think there's a reason we don't know what's going to happen in the future, because, you know, if you know certain things you just wouldn't do. It's not an easy thing to have your own business in general, but it's certainly not easy when you're entering a field such as this, which is exponentially evolving and growing at a rate that you are not familiar with, and that the community is just coming to terms with and trying to understand, and then there's discussions and disagreements within the community. So it's exciting, it's rewarding, and it's frustrating, to say the least. But I will say, in the 11 years I've been doing this, there have been so many rewarding experiences where we don't change the autism diagnosis. We don't eradicate the issue. But what we do is completely calm, empower, enrich the family, the child, and a parent's ability to make an immediate, powerful difference for their child and for their family. I don't like the fact that so many parents feel immediately helpless. And moms particularly, I'm not saying that dads don't, but because the moms tend to be the majority of the daily caregiver, you get this diagnosis and immediately think, well, I'm helpless. What can I do? And people don't think that, well, I'm going to change the color of a room, I'm going to change the lighting, that's going to make a difference. Well, shockingly, not only will it make a difference, it will change your life and your child's life. As a quick example, if your child is not sleeping through the night, 6, 7 days a week. And doing these things allow him to sleep, or her, 4, 5, 6 out of that 7 days a week. You're going to tell me that's not going to change the course of a family's life?
Of course, it's exhausting.
Siblings, parents, and that's so important. And so that is what this is about.
Well, tell me how you work. Now, so you came up with this idea. You knew that sensory issues were huge. You knew you could address them. How do you go about addressing making a space? Do you work primarily in the home then?
We work with home.
Okay.
And facilities. We've started branching out in the last 5 years to a lot more facilities for autism and homes for small group homes for autism. We've even worked with Alzheimer's patients. We've worked with a lot of different needs, special needs.
So, for example, we're looking at starting a special needs ministry at our church, Prince of Peace in Woodland Hills.
Amazing.
So we might bring you in to say, what should the room look like? What should we have there? What are some of the resources we need to have? But if you were coming into my home, because my home has not been designed this way, how would you work? What would you do?
So the first thing I do is I learn about the child, all of the issues that are going on, your whole history, and I need both caregivers, parents, partners present. Period, end of story. Unless they're, one is away in an unusual circumstance. I have a very detailed questionnaire that I need both people to answer separately. Nothing is done together because both partners, especially different genders, but both partners pick up completely different things. Sometimes caregivers and parents get a little frustrated with me about that because they feel they spend so much time, there's nothing they don't know. But when I get you to answer these questions in detail separately, and then I get you to journal for 5 to 7 days. And you have to journal about the patterns you're seeing, where they are going, when they're frustrated, what they're avoiding, what they're gravitating towards, all sorts of things like that. Then we come together and we see the differences, and literally 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, one of the parents, if not both, are like, I never noticed that. What do you mean you never noticed that? And that's a template of navigating a pattern. And once we discover those things, when I'm able to interact with the child, I do. When I'm able to ask questions of the child, just to work with the child, I do. Sometimes I can't. I'm able to work remotely through email, through pictures, through Skype, which is wonderful. But once we do all that work, then I'm able to start to discern what needs to happen. Now, what are the functions of the spaces they go to? Do you share an office and a playroom? Do they have their therapies in their bedroom? I need to know what's happening. Do they share with another sibling? I need to know all of these things, so when I go to create that space, I can determine if what's going on with the color of the paint, what's the sheen of the paint. Is there natural light bouncing off of that paint, or is there fluorescent light? What kind of light? What's going on in that space? And we change everything literally like a puzzle. And that child space is a puzzle. So the best way I can describe it, if we go to a spa, when we go to a spa, we are buoyed into mind, body, and soul, relaxation and decompression.
The music,
it does it for us, right?
The smells,
correct.
The water with,
so no matter
with cucumbers in it.
The spa water. So, excuse me, no matter what the situation you're coming from, the room does part of the work for you.
Yes, it does.
That is how the rooms that we design work. We find out what the function is. We find out the need, psychological and emotional, of that client is, and then we design so that the room does half the work. So you maintain your energy, it creates sustainable energy, and it does half the work for the child. So when they're in there, it places them where they need to be. If they're in their bedroom and it's solely for sleep and relaxation and for them to self-soothe, then that is how it's designed. Conversely, if it's being shared with another child, or they have therapies there, there is a different way to design it to accomplish both of those functions.
Okay, great.
And so this happens throughout the household.
We have a clip.
Oh, we have a clip. Great.
We have a clip that we
can
show.
I want to ask you a question about some of this environmental issue stuff.
Okay, but let's take a look, because you've done many TV shows, and let's take a look at you on a TV show doing this job.
Okay, perfect.
We need kids space designer and special needs design expert, Lauren.
What I do specifically is I use color and pattern to support emotional needs.
Adrian, sweet and cuddly. John Russ, his happy older brother. But Adrian is not the easiest child. He has a mild form of autism called Asperger's syndrome. One vibrant bedroom. With the Wemple family, we take a loud room and turn down the volume.
We're going to do a great
One of the biggest problems with the room is that it's so cramped.
to make it more efficient space-wise. Obviously, in terms of color, while that yellow is, you know, very cheery, it really is excessive in terms of stimulation, especially for Adrian. I have some ideas already that will hopefully create a lot more space.
Lauren gives it a couple weeks, then crams her ideas into the official Kid Space suitcase.
Look inside. You know what this is? It's going to be your room. This is where we're going to put all of the shelving. This is actually going to be a very tall bureau. Blue in general is a very pacifying color of water, and green is a color of balance. So if you notice, although I kept the room, you know, in blue, for John Russ, who loves red, we added his name in red on the storage trundle underneath, and then we got this little lamp, which is just a little puff of red.
It just accents.
Just little accent. Look at the bridge. Wow. Daddy built this?
The room feels twice as big.
I think it's great. I love it. Do you like this room? Yeah. Okay, good job. Okay, give me this one, and let's see if you can grab another one.
Awesome.
Tell us a little bit. You said that little boy's doing great now.
He's his name is Adrian, and he has, you know, Asperger's, but actually autism, but it's been now changed to Asperger's. But back then, right before we did this, the year before, he was wearing a helmet, hitting his head. He was perseverating on everything. It was insane. And the room before, you know, had every single color. I mean, it was mango yellow, and it had tie-dye. There was so much going on, and he was sharing it with his brother, who was neurotypical, but really, you know, active.
Right.
And so he's doing phenomenally well now. He doesn't need an aid in school. He's been mainstreamed. He's, you know, his diagnosis has been so diluted, if you will, or yes, you know,
Raised
brought up to the mainstream. I mean, it's incredible, and he's insanely intelligent, as most kids, frankly, on the spectrum are. Socially, he's done much better, and during the time that we changed the room, his brother, you know, they've learned how to interact from a different perspective, but it made such a difference from, you know, when the parents were telling me for the little boy, you know, that's what's most rewarding for me. At one point, the military hired me to go to Okinawa to work with military families with kids with autism, because they had an even higher rate of autism.
We have Act Today has a program, Act Today for Military Families.
Right.
And we have given out about 200,000, a little more now, of direct grants to military children. And their studies, the Department of Defense has not done a recent study, but I'm sure, because it was 1 in 88 when the general population was 1 in 110.
Right.
And we do find that it is a higher rate among military families, and you know how disruptive it is. They move on average every 2 years, and a parent's often deployed, and it's just traumatic.
It was ridiculous, and the mom was pregnant with their second child, and luckily she was one of those moms, you know, not in denial. She like knew immediately. He was diagnosed probably, I think, at like 14 months, and it wasn't, you know, overly intense, but I mean, this child never slept, like just never slept. Would not allow clothing on him at night. No blankets, would have to go through an hour-and-a-half routine to go to sleep. We went in there. I had everything shipped from the States, which was certainly not easy on a base. And then we had all the Marines volunteer. Basically, we had 2 days to change the entire space, which you can see actually on my website.
Wow.
And overnight, literally overnight, this boy was only a little like 2.5 at the time. He went from not sleeping at all to going into his bedroom by himself without that hour-and-a-half routine, got into bed, took the covers, put him on himself, and went to sleep, slept through the night. I was doubting that this was due to what we did. I really thought it might have been pure exhaustion, because I was shocked myself.
Sure.
And not only did it happen every night, these parents called me every day and was telling me over and over that they didn't realize themselves how little sleep they were getting.
Yeah.
They couldn't believe how their relationship had deteriorated because they were never together. Now this little boy you know, had 2 temper tantrums a week instead of 2 a day, sleeping through the night. The parents could sleep in their own bed together. I mean, it's shocking.
Yeah, well, we all know it's a snowball effect.
Yes.
You've got a child with autism with behaviors that are disruptive and disturbing, and then because of that, they don't sleep. Then the parent doesn't sleep, and the stress level, it just woo.
But you're shocked to find that these, what I call the backbone, lighting and color, which are the backbone, and then all these other aspects make this much of a difference, but they do. So it's not rocket science, but there is a lot to it, and you have to commit to doing some of these things to discover what needs to be done and then do it. But this is not, this is what I want to get through to people today. This is not decorative.
Okay.
This is not interior design. This is not feng shui. This is fundamental. This is the foundation of a house. Okay, so we're not talking about, well, it's just design and I need to get the hyperbaric chamber for my child. I don't want you to have to choose, but I have to afford to do these things, and I know that there's so much parents have to pay for. This is fundamental, and this will be, if you're paying thousands of dollars for a therapy in a room that is exacerbating your child's issues, you are basically throwing the money into the fireplace, and you're making it harder for the therapist. Your child's growth and evolution is being hindered. We want it to be optimal. So I'm telling the community, let us help you do that. And if you really can't afford anything, spend $20 and get the book online. You can even get it, I think we have it for $10. You can download it to your iPad.
What is the website
we have
where
a
they
free
can get that?
video. brushoflove.com.
Okay, great.
You can go to Facebook/brushoflove.com.
Okay.
We are reorganizing, but you can sign up for our free tips in the next month or 2.
Okay.
We have a lot of free things available too, but I just want people to know this is really fundamental stuff.
And if they want to consult, then or if the school wants to consult, that's the best place to reach you is at the website.
Yes, brushoflove.com. You can go to info@brushoflove.com or my name, Lauren, Lauren, at brushoflove.com.
I have one question about when you are redoing the environment.
Yeah.
We talked about toxins. We talked about carpets, paints, the possible effects of these. How do you deal with that situation?
I deal with green stuff. So as an example, in my book, I used to really count on Benjamin Moore Natura paint, fresh air paint, but now I work strictly with Mythic, mythic.com.
Okay.
Mythic paint's been around about 11, 12 years. They're completely toxin and chemical and VOC free.
Okay.
0, 0, 0. I've done all the scientific research. It's all citrus based. It dries well. It covers well. Phenomenal colors. You don't have to leave the room or open the windows.
Mythic.
Mythic, MYTHIC paint.com. MythicPaint.com.
And obviously no carpet that has unnatural...
No, you don't use Scotch Guard. You know, even the furniture I choose, the treatments are natural and organic. These things are important. When you vacuum, the heat elevates all of the toxins, and we really want to work with toxin-free wherever we can, obviously including one's diets. Whether it's casein-free or gluten-free, it should be toxin-free.
Right, absolutely.
Very good. Well, that sounds like, well, this is a great service, and you know, I didn't know about it before. So when I saw, I don't know where I found you and talked to Shannon.
Yes,
she said,
and I said, I know Lauren.
She said, I had Lauren on the show. She's wonderful. So they've got the website. They know how to contact you, and I'm going to talk to you about maybe working with our new ministry for our children with disabilities at our church.
That's wonderful.
And we need to redo Mount Wyatt's room because when he was born, I spray painted all these horse heads everywhere in weird colors.
And I would talk to you about that. And if I can say one more thing, we have my book is Unique Kids, Unique Surroundings, and that's on brushoflove.com. You can get it at Amazon.com and Borders.